Hi guys, hope you're well. So we've got 3 lessons left this week, and then it's the end of the year. So basically, what I've decided to do is send out all 3 lessons at once in a booklet, because I know some of you are coming to the revision sessions, and I want it to be okay for you to kind of get on with it when you can and when you're not doing other stuff. So basically I'm sending it all out at once. Now the big thing a lot of people said they were struggling with was demographics. So I've done 3 different parts of demographics: birth rates, death rates and ageing population. Now that means the only one we haven't gone through is immigration, but if I added that as well it'd be too much for 1 week. So I kind of made the decision just to do the first 3, and if anyone's stuck we'll go through demographics again in the summer term. Okay, so first page is just kind of defining key terms. I don't think there's any that I need to go through particularly with you there. If you kind of look them up yourself, if you're not sure, you'll get a good definition. Okay, we're starting with birth rates. So we've got 3 different points on birth rates. Now, I found with birth rates, it makes sense to split it into 3 areas. So, change of position of women, medical changes, and changing position of childhood. So changing position of women is good to compare with kind of the early 1970s, where women had very limited opportunities within society. Now this was legal and cultural, so many of the Equal Pay Acts hadn't been fully developed, and also if you think of media representation of women, most women would have been people's wives, or it would have been like advertisements where the woman was seen in the home doing domestic labour. So culturally it would have been considered that women would have been in the home, but also legally they had fewer opportunities, and as well up until the late 1960s, you remember abortion was illegal, and it was only in 1960s contraception became illegal, and there was still, when it was legalised, a bit of a slow uptake on contraception and abortion through the mid-70s. So think about what's changed since then. And what I would say with contraception and abortion, it's not just a legal change. Remember, they've introduced the teaching of it in education, so more women are aware. Now for your evaluation, think about why it is wrong. You guys have loads of evidence for this, why it is wrong to say women have gained equality. Okay, our next thing is that we used to have a high infant mortality rate. So many women would have been ill during pregnancy, and many of infants would have died. Now, what this meant is people would have had more children to replace the ones they'd lost. And if you remember, it was the norm to call your second child after the one that had already died. So that would have affected infant mortality rates. But since then, there's been several reasons why things have changed. So if I get you to look at the reasons infant mortality rates were high in the 1950s and the start of the 19th century, in fact, and say what has changed since then. Now, the main things you want to be talking about is the introduction of maternity care, like midwives, laws that say we have better quality of housing, so you're not allowed mould and rented accommodation now, and we've had the development of the things like the welfare state, and we've got more knowledge. So in the turn of the 19th century, doctors would have recommended women to even smoke during pregnancy. Okay, your third point on birth rates is the changing position of childhood. So if you think at the start of the 19th century, children would have worked, so there would have been a financial asset. People would have had lots of children to bring money into the home. However, that's changed now. Children are no longer allowed to work, and they stay in full-time education. Not only that, so that makes them a financial liability because they can't work, but not only that, the cost of raising children has changed because there's been a cultural shift in child-centeredness where we're expected to do more for children. Okay, our third point is the overall decline in death rate. So people are living longer now than they used to, and that's caused a change in demographics because we've got an older population. Okay, so our first reason for this is improved nutrition. So supermarkets have said supermarkets have made food cheaper. So you can now get kind of more nutritional food like meat, for example, cheaper at supermarkets. So it's made it more accessible. And there's also more awareness of the dangers of things like smoking and drinking. We know what's good and what's bad for us. So in the table, I'd just like you to explain why this would lead to a decline in death rates. So that's all you need to do for that. But your evaluation, remember, we can bring in statistics that despite access to cheap food, more and more people using food banks. Equally, despite access to healthy food, we've got one of the highest obesity rates in the country, so we could link that in as evaluation. Okay, next is the development of medical improvements. So there's three big things that have had an impact on on life expectancy. So we've got the development of antibiotics, we've got the development of so like you guys would have had like your jabs and things like that, like to make people immune. And we've got improved maternity services. So this is the idea that I know this doesn't sound like a big thing, but globally the biggest killer is for women is pregnancy. Globally, that's the biggest killer of women. So the fact that we have better treatment, better maternity care, better things like opportunities like ultrasound to monitor the baby means that that's led to a massive decline in birth rates. So each one of those, if you just do a quick bit of research, you don't need too much scientific knowledge, and just say how they might have affected the death rates. Now for evaluation, we know that although all of those things have gotten better, and do you remember we said a lot of people are choosing not to get jabs for their children because there was like a scare that it caused autism. So it's actually your age range at the minute. A lot of people in your age range didn't have their jabs for cultural reasons. Okay, and our last thing is public health measures. So this is anything that's been brought in by the government to try and decline death rates. So we have got the Clean Air Act, which is basically controlling levels of air pollution in different areas. We've got health and safety laws brought in that all organisations have to follow. And we've got the traffic light system on food. So you remember it's a red, amber and green. So it tells you things like the salt content, the fat content, and it rates it out of red, orange and green. So for each one, describe it and explain how that would impact death rates. But then for our evaluation, if I could get, you could put that not all of these have been successful. So for example, we've still got high rates of obesity, we still have air pollution from different countries, and many health and safety laws aren't actually followed up by different companies. Okay, and the last one we're going to look at is more of a theoretical one. So we know we've got an ageing population. Now you might be asked, has elderly life improved has the position of the elderly improved? So there's two main theories on that, the postmodern and the modern theory. So postmodern, what you want to think is that modern view sees age as a fixed stage. So in your definition of modern society, you say age is a fixed stage where you experience set experiences based on your age. Now they say that the position of the elderly is a fixed stage and it's a negative stage in life, and elderly people are in poverty, isolation, so anything negative is part of the modern view. Now in your definition of modern view, they also think the reason that elderly people are mistreated is because they no longer serve a need for capitalism, so they're just left to kind of live in poverty and isolation. The postmodern view disagrees. They think there's been cultural changes and an increase in products aimed at the elderly, which gives elderly people more power, more freedom of choice, which means it's no longer a fixed stage. Now the only key term that's in there that you might need help with is the grey vote. The grey vote is the idea that elderly people are the most likely to vote, so they get more power in political decisions, and actually more policies are directed at them. So for example, they removed free bus passes to school and used that funding to give free bus passes to the elderly. Okay, and our final paragraph on ageing is looking at how policies have dealt with the ageing population. Now, there's been two things. We've got a higher dependency ratio because more people are living longer. So what that's mean is they've changed retirement age. So if you could research that and just define it and explain why it was brought in. So it's brought in to deal with the higher dependency ratio. And secondly, we've got kind of a shortage of housing. So policies have been brought in to encourage elderly people that live in alone and in couples to move into smaller housing. And the way they did that is bedroom tax. If you remember, if you're living and remember, it's only social housing, so it's like housing that's paid for by the government, that you lose some of your welfare if you continue living in a house with extra bedrooms when that's no longer needed. So if you just do a bit of research on each of those and explain them. Any problems, as usual, let me know and I'll give you a hand. All right, guys, hopefully see you all in some revision sessions. Bye.